Welcome to the YS Idea Lab. My name is Jacob Eckeberger. I'm the content manager at YS, and I am joined by the lovely Brian Aaby.
Thank you, Jacob.
Yes. He's the director of YS Search, YS Coaching, and all-around awesome, crazy things.
I'm in charge of the all-around awesome, crazy things.
It's very true. And so, Brian, before we get into YS 101, tell us your story, your youth ministry story, why it matters, why you give so much of your time and energy to people who help kids find and follow Jesus.
Yeah, I didn't trust in Christ until I was 17 years old. Through Young Life, got invited up to Malibu, Canada, went up there, heard the gospel for the first time, trusted in Christ, came back, got invited to a youth group where a leadership transition had just taken place, brand new youth pastor, took me under his wings, lived out 1 Thessalonians 2:8. For we loved you so much, we were delighted to share with you not only the gospel of God, but our lives as well, because you'd become so dear to us. And Steve poured that into me. Senior year, got really involved. By the time I got to college, it's like, this is what I want to do. And I found a small church, got involved with a youth group, and it's been 2 decades now, 2 decades plus of pouring into students, pouring into leaders, pouring into parents. And I just love developing others to do the same.
And you're creating this really unique resource in YS 101. Could you give us like the Cliff Notes version, the bird's eye view of what all it entails and why it matters?
Yeah, so coming out of the last couple of years at NYWC, we've been offering these free coaching sessions. I would say 50% of the people that have come and talked to us and had these 40-minute sessions have been asking just really nuts and bolts questions. A lot of them are vocational youth leaders, or bivocational youth leaders, or volunteers that are now being given a stipend to run their youth ministry and are asking just basic questions, didn't take college classes. And so, and knowing that, and 25% of our crowd is new to NYWC essentially each year, we wanted to put together a 101 track at NYWC, but that's part of a greater whole. The greater whole is that we want ongoing training for those youth leaders across the country and beyond just the NYWC attendees. So we're putting together something called the 101 Collaborative, and 2017 it's going to launch. It's essentially a 6-month coaching program that'll have bookended with on-site experiences. Start somewhere in the spring, probably a warm weather location, gather everybody, 18, 20 people in this kind of collaborative group. 2 of us coaches pouring into them, and each month we'll meet online through an online forum where everybody gets to see each other, and then each person will also have a one-on-one with our coaches, and then we'll end it, culminating experience at NYWC 17. So kind of continue those 6 months at a time, 6-month program, and ending it at whatever that next year's NYWC is. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah. And within your coaching sessions, how many of y'all done so far?
About 140.
140. Gosh. Can you give us kind of 1 or 2 main, one of those nuts and bolts questions that you get, and then how you recommend that youth worker address it? So maybe give us a practical question that usually gets asked, and then the
presenting problem is what we'll say. I mean, literally on the way to it, we'll just say, hey, what brought you to this? And quite honestly, what usually is some sort of programmatic thing, something as simple as, and I shouldn't say simple, but hey, my pastor wants us to move from Wednesday night programming to Sunday night programming, and I have no idea how to do it. Now, that's a presenting issue, and so there's things and strategies that we can talk about of what it looks like in terms of communication plan and things like that. But what we'll usually find out is that this isn't the first time that senior pastor has been asking to do something that person's not comfortable with doing. We unpack that, and there's usually a communication issue that's taking place. Expectations that were not named when they came into the job. So we usually are talking through how to troubleshoot the relationship quite often, instead of necessarily just answering that question, because that's more consulting. The coaching is helping them find the answer that they already know, and there's a breakdown in communication there.
And when you meet a youth worker who has just taken the leap into youth ministry, what is the top bit of advice that you give them?
Brand new?
Yeah,
run away. No, just kidding. Man, prioritize your own relationship with Jesus first and foremost. Your identity is in Christ, not in your performance. And so if you are just looking to perform for others, it's like your coach all over again, when you're in PE class or when you're in 7th grade wrestling, it's like, I'm just trying to perform for others. If your identity is in Christ and you know that you are a redeemed child of God, first and foremost, there's security in that. Everything else will be added unto you, and it's like putting that priority first, and then relationship. Making sure that you're concentrating on relationship I think the best formula ever for a youth pastor out there is to understand what I call the 1/3 principle. 1/3 of your time and effort needs to be put into your students, 1/3 of your time and effort into parents, and 1/3 of your time and effort into volunteer team. The easiest 2/3 of that is your students and your student leaders, meaning the volunteer team, and we usually ignore the parents because so many of those young that have just taken that leap into youth ministry feel like at age 22, age 23, I can't have relationship, I can't relate with the 40-year-old parent. But if you're working on that relationship, you'll gain that trust. You'll have that assurances from them. And it's as simple as just greeting the kid at the car and saying hi to the parent as they're getting out and when they're dropping off, going up to them between services at church and just saying, man, I really loved what Ted contributed today at our 7th grade small group. And he said something was really awesome. I just thought you'd be proud, parent, and making that a priority, I think, just leaps and bounds. And then over communicate with the parents. Keeping them informed just goes miles.
Yeah. What are we missing from this conversation? You have been engaging in 140. You and your coaches have been engaging in 140 of these conversations with youth workers who are coming with some basic questions. Some are struggling with some pretty serious stuff. What have we not covered yet in this short interview that's really essential for that connected to that YS 101?
Man. It probably comes back, not that this needs to be a therapy session or anything like that, but so much of what we do is that soul care area. I'm just a huge believer in 1 Corinthians 12. One body, many parts, all the parts are needed. So many of us as youth leaders think that we have to do it all and be all to all. We're not connected to the rest of the body. We're not naming what we're great at. We're trying to improve what we're not great at because we have these performance issues that we think others want us to be great at mercy when we're not great at mercy. Let others lead in that area. Recruit and train those that are great in those areas to excel in it, and name that I'm not great at that. If I'm not a great teacher, I need to recruit and train somebody who is a great teacher, and I need to be great at relationships. And I feel like if we can own who we are, and we can accept that I am a child of the Most High God, and He has made me uniquely this way, and I can name that to others and not be ashamed of who I am. But then I would just say be connected to other people that understand that know that. Get outside of your own church and be connected to others in a network. And maybe that is I have to invest in coaching from outside, and we're going to coach you then how to even build relationship with other people. So I think that's maybe what's missing is just that we're feeling alone, and alone stinks. And so just getting connected with others.
So I'm stealing this question from you. I've been stealing it for years. What is one last bit of encouragement you'd like to leave with youth workers? You've seen the landscape from lots of different angles.
Yeah.
What's one last bit of encouragement?
It goes back to what I said at the beginning, the 1 Thessalonians 2:8. Paul came into town, into Thessalonica, 3 weeks was there, and was able to say those words. I loved you so much, I was delighted to share with you not only the gospel of God, but our lives as well. And that whole idea of life. A kid needs to be invited to Starbucks more than he needs to hear from your teaching. And so they won't remember necessarily what you taught, but they will remember that mocha that you bought them. So investing in them in that way gives you license to speak into them. And so my prayer for us is understand that it starts with relationship.
I love it. Well, let's thank Brian for joining us on the Idea Lab stage.